I'd like to welcome back Barry Libert to the third part of our interview about the Network Imperative, the new hot book on the marketplace today. Barry, welcome back, sir.
Thank you for having me again.
One of the things I absolutely love about your book is that you don't just talk about these new business models, you also talk about how we can actually implement them. So it's not just at 35,000 feet, you take us down to the runway, which is where the magic really hits the ground. So if you just tell us, you use this acronym PIVOT, and the first one I understand is P for pinpoint. What does that mean?
So it's very hard for people to pinpoint their accurate business models. They're thinking in terms of industries and competition and Michael Porter's 5 forces and strategy and products and markets. Well, the research says there's only 4 business models. So you first have to pinpoint which of the business models are yours. Are you in the asset building business? Do you make things, distribute them, sell them? Asset building. Service provision, which is healthcare, doctors, lawyers, accountants, bankers. So financial services or healthcare services. Are you in the tech business? Do you make software, big data, things like that? Clean tech, I-tech. And lastly, are you a network business? You first have to pinpoint your business model so you can get your whole team on the same page. It's irrelevant which industry you're in. What's relevant, which is what business model you're in.
Okay, I love it. I also see you have to measure where your current mental model is at, which I guess is also important.
Correct, because many people will say, gee, I'm a certain type of business model. And the truth of the matter is they're not. They're a completely different business model. They want to say they're a tech play or they're a platform play, but when you look at their balance sheet or their income statement, they're the exact opposite. So you think about maybe Walmart might say they're an internet e-tailer, right? Well, if you look at their balance sheet, they're really just an asset store company, right? They have a lot of stores around the world and the stores are choking them. Yeah. So today, you need to look at what you think is true and really identify whether it is true or not before you just say, hey, I'm a young white guy.
Yeah. The I stands for inventory. You talk about measuring your assets there, inventory. If you
Sure. So when anybody does inventory, they think, again, go back to what we said. They count their chairs, they count their stores, they count their buildings, they count their plant, they count their property. You know what I find so interesting? There's this great food store in the United States called Whole Foods. I'm sure they have a perfect inventory of their bananas. I know they do. But I'm not a banana, and they know nothing about me. So it would seem to me if they want to do a real inventory, bananas do matter. I'm not suggesting I happen to love bananas, and I like apples and oranges too. But as a Whole Foods fanatic, you even think they want to know me. And I'm a member of the inventory or an asset of their company. But I guarantee you Whole Foods doesn't have any place the level of inventory control for their customer relationships as they do for their banana relationships.
Yeah, because I see you say measure your network capital, which you define as a relationship, interaction, and associated insights. I wonder how many people are measuring that today.
I'm going to bet you very few, but I guarantee they're measuring the number of bananas and number of cars that are on the lot. Yeah. They're great at that stuff, but really, well, it's an interesting thesis.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thesis, and it's common sense as well if you really think about it, but it doesn't happen. The next one, V, out of pivot, is visualize.
Correct.
Is this the Stephen Covey, beginning with the end in mind? Or is
yes, perfect. And begin with the end in mind. You have to visualize yourself with this new end in mind, which you have to visualize yourself in a set of relationships as a network with a platform. Because if you can't visualize, that's what visualization is all about, you're never going to operate that way. You're going to go back to your store, back to your business, back to your small company or big company, and I guarantee you will build revenue models and expense models and asset models that will have you measure and produce the exact same thing you were doing yesterday. And if you can't visualize your future as a moment in time today, like Mark Zuckerberg saw VR, virtual reality, today, you never get there. You keep going into tomorrow the same way you are today.
Yeah, and then it's the operation, right? So operationally, that's when you actually build it and you play with it and you create it. Is that
correct?
Right?
You have to basically operationalize, which means you need to recruit the people, you need to train the people, you need to invest in the people, you need to buy or build the technology, you need to really operationalize the concept of a network and digital first environment. If you don't, you'll never get there. And here's the problem. Most people can't visualize their future different than where they are today. Even though we just said there's only 4 business models, so you should be able to visualize yourself as a network and digital first organization. Yeah. But even if you can't, at least you have to begin to operate whatever little experiments, and almost every company has experiments like you have going on here, where they're beginning to experiment with basically networks first, content first, organizational outside the 4 walls first, without advertising first. and then let that begin to take shape by investing in it. That way you can operationalize things that you know that are happening in the market that are not yet happening for you.
Yeah, and again, the goal is not necessarily to move to network orchestration as a business model, but to incorporate aspects of it. I mean, some asset builders will always be asset builders, is that?
Correct. You have to accept today diversification in your portfolio. Yes, you can be in any industry, but the reality is most companies should accept the fact that they're just like they have stock and bond portfolios when investors make the decision to diversify. Business leaders have to properly balance all four business models the way Apple does. They have to build things and service and sell those things. They have to provide the service capabilities to deliver on those things. They have to have the technology and big data to keep track of it. And they have to have the network and customers that allow them to be led into the future.
Beautiful. And then you talk about measuring then, and so tracking is the T. I'm not surprised by that. But you say Amazon, quote, Amazon has what Jeff Bezos calls a culture of metrics. What do you mean by tracking your network?
So it's really easy to have your CFO, which is your Chief Financial Officer, otherwise many people call him the CNO, Chief No Officer, say no to all these new things. They're really good in accounting. Most CFOs were steeped in accounting, which is called GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. It's a global terminology. So if they think about only measuring revenues and expenses, then that's what you measure, revenues and expenses. But if you begin to have your CFO and other people like your Chief Marketing Officer or your Chief Technology Officer start adding measures to that, right, which is thinking about measuring sentiment, engagement, contribution, cooperation, co-creation, those new big data measurements, then all of a sudden, I'll call it the dashboards of the future become reality. I think for all my organizations, they'll stop reading board packs, which is the presentation of boards the day before the board meeting, and they'll start receiving real-time on their Apple Watch, real-time information from their companies that measure the entire capability of the firm and all the edges of their network.
Yeah. Your message is augmented in this book. Would you say, and it's a brilliant chapter or section of the book about implementation, but would you say an organization can literally go through this and do the implementation, or do they need a third party like you or your organization to come in and support them on the mission?
So I think many organizations need help, but we did put in the book and online a full implementation canvas. So I believe in self-service. I'm Open Matters, right? So we try to put everything online. So online assessments of where you are in your business model, mental model, and full online canvases allows you to pivot your own business model and keep track of your own performance.
Yeah, I actually did that, and I came out as a network orchestrator, so
Good for
I had a
you.
little bit of champagne. But that's fantastic, Barry. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Thank you.